What's up, YouTube? How's it going? You know what I'm saying? We're back again with another video. And today we're reacting to why you should watch slash read One Piece by Super Eye Patch Wolf. You know what I'm saying? The other video, the last video that I did, I think was called The Appeal of One Piece. And it was by the same creator. And that video was a banger. And like I said, I've seen One Piece. But, you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to watch all these other YouTube videos because sometime in the future, my goal is to do anime reactions. You know what I'm saying? That's the main goal, and that's what I'm trying to do. So be on the lookout for that, and make sure to like and subscribe, all right? Let's get straight into it. This is a 30-minute video, and I don't want to waste any time, and I don't want to pause and do all that stuff. I just want to hop straight into it. You know what I'm saying? All right, let's go.
If I were to try and explain the appeal of long-running shonen storytelling, it would be that these are stories designed to go on for a very long time. And
I like those.
we inevitably spend a much greater amount of time getting to know their worlds and characters, over the course of which the kind of relation we form with them inherently changes. As rather than being something consumed and then moved on from, these are series that sink into our daily routine and often become a constant, gentle, comforting background noise in the days that make up our lives. And this has been true for me for the vast majority of my life. There's rarely a time I haven't slowly working my way through one of these long-running series, the best of which have become some of my favorite stories I've ever experienced.
Yo, this guy, like, I have to pause. Sorry about that. Like, I'm not trying to pause this much in this video, but what he's speaking about is facts, man. I love the long-running animes. You know what I'm saying? Like the Naruto Shippuden, you know, the fairy tales, the Bleaches, One Piece. Like, the long-running animes are amazing. You know what I'm saying? Because, like, I just dig deep into that world, and I'm just binge-watching. I'm having the best time of my life, man. I love the long-running animes. But let's hop straight into the video.
But it's also a style of storytelling that seems inherently detrimental to itself. Even the very best in the industry have succumbed to the pressure of producing a long-running weekly manga, the eventual fatigue of which has caused even the most monstrously talented authors to either drastically reduce their release schedule or suffer a long-term drop in quality. And yet, there is one artist who, despite the intense lifestyle of being a weekly
Oda's a
manga
genius,
fan,
man.
still
Oda's a
tells his
genius.
story with the same
I
energy
keep saying
as
that, bro.
he did 2 decades ago, with a series that's still as loved by its fans now as it was at the heights of its popularity. That artist is Ichiro Oda, and that story is One Piece. The most notable thing I could say about One Piece in the modern day is that it's still good, and sailing the Grand Blue with the Straw Hats is still a blast, with many fans attesting that the current arc is one of the best in the series' history.
Oh, wow. You know what I'm saying? So I'm guessing this video was made a long time ago, because he said the current arc is the Whole Cake Island. And, you know, I caught up with the manga, you know what I'm saying? And the manga is like 1,000+ chapters. And the Wano arc is good, man. The Wano arc is amazing. And you know what I didn't notice? It's like, Wano arc is like a continuation of the Whole Cake Island, because you get to see Sanji's, you know, character development. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, this is lit.
To agree. But the question is how? How does a series stay interesting and relevant after 20 years? And what is it that makes its fans still so loyal to it? And if you've never read One Piece, what could possibly make the massive commitment of it worthwhile? Well, my dear friends, the day has finally come for us to answer those questions. So let's lower
I'm
the
hyped,
sails,
man. I'm hyped.
set out towards the horizon, and talk about why you should watch / read One Piece. The major advantage of having a long-running series is that it allows the author to communicate a much greater degree of information to the reader. And while this can often be to a series' detriment, with many artists forced to prioritize longevity over quality, in the right hands it can be used to build worlds of immense breadth and scale, ones with stories and characters that would be completely impossible in a shorter context. And this is the primary strength of Ichiro Oda as a writer. His ability to create and sustain a long-running narrative. And one of the primary ways he does this is by grounding his series in a tangible, believable world. While One Piece is
That's a fact. That's a fact, man.
Straw Hat Pirates and their quest for the treasure One Piece, it's the detours and locations along the way that make up the primary bulk of One Piece's story. Each new location in the journey of the Straw Hats has its own unique identity, with its own customs, cultures, economy, and inhabitants. And a huge part of the appeal of sailing the Grand Line with the Straw Hats is uncovering these locations and discovering the mechanics of how they work. Oda has a way of giving even the most visually outlandish locations a tangible feeling of place and structure. Take, for example, Whole Cake Island from the most recent
Yo,
arc.
like, I don't know how Oda comes up with all this stuff, bro. It's crazy. Because it's like each island has its own culture and own heritage, own, like, style. Like, it's crazy,
Until
bro.
we find out later how the island became like this. Whole Cake Island is under the control of Big Mom, a massive hulking woman with the power to steal life directly from people and transfer it into everyday objects. A power she's used to transform the island into her own distorted wonderland, where no one can leave and people must sacrifice a segment of their lifespan as tax. This setup alone is already a pretty fascinating way to handle a location, but perhaps even more impressive is the detail that's gone into its creation. If you go to the One Piece wiki, you'll find pages of information about
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's each island is just so detailed. It's crazy. It's amazing. And each island has, like, its own twist. You know what I'm saying? Really similar to the Dressrosa Island.
Detailed descriptions of the first floor library, the fourth floor room of treasure, and the rooftop party hall. If you want to know what the weather is like on Whole Cake Islands, where and how the residents get their food, or why there are skeletons near the seducing woods, all that information is there for you to dig out. In other words, Whole Cake Island has a tangible sense of geography about it. It feels real because Oda has taken the time to develop it. And what's more, this is just one of the many examples of the extremely fleshed out, developed locations.
I agree, man.
One Piece's world.
I agree.
So is a massive forest filled with beast people located on the back of a giant elephant, run by a fierce warrior dog during the day and an equally fierce warrior cat during the night. Dressrosa is a giant city with a massive gladiatorial arena inhabited by bizarre toy people, which are all under the heel of a vicious false king. Thriller Bark is a giant haunted ghost ship that literally eats other ships and turns their crew into zombies. And they've all been fleshed out to a similar degree as Whole Cake Island. And it all comes together to create not just...
Bro, and that's only 3 islands. Like, we're not talking about Alabasta. We're not talking about Drum Island. We ain't talking about Skypiea. Skypiea was just genius. You know what I'm saying? But when you're watching it, when you're reading it, it feels like a drag. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's one of my least favorite arcs. But the amount of detail that Oda put into it is really admirable, man. Shout out to Oda, bro.
feeling of one singular massive world, but the worlds within worlds that form One Piece's landscape.
We're not even talking about Wano. And we got Elbaf coming up, too. Man, that's gonna be lit.
One Piece is ever constructed in isolation, but rather each individual one has their own allegiances, political geography, history, and driving motivators, many of whom have relationships and backstories entirely isolated from our heroes, like how 100 Beast Kaido and Gecko Moria have beef with each other due to the fact that Kaido was the one who killed Moria's entire crew, forcing him to create the undead army the Straw Hats face off against in Thriller Bark. These slices of character information are often revealed through what seem like tiny throwaway lines, only to become far more relevant to the story later on, to the point that I've lost entire afternoons
Yo, this is the exact reason why I'm gonna rewatch One Piece, man. And I'm gonna rewatch it on this channel. I'm gonna do a reaction channel, and we're gonna rewatch One Piece, and we're gonna discover other animes as well, because there's a lot of animes that I haven't seen yet. And so, like I'm saying, man, be on the lookout. It's coming. It's coming, bro. It's coming.
Through the One Piece wiki, going down rabbit hole after rabbit hole, trying to understand how all these characters fit together to create the giant, ever-evolving...
I'm gonna go crazy at the end of this year and the whole 2022. Like, I'm gonna go beast mode
world of
just
One Piece
upload
like
massive
this
amounts of content
means
for
that he's
y'all,
been
bro.
able to evolve it into a landscape that begs to be dissected and studied. And if you need proof of this, just look at the communities that have built up around its analyzation and discussion, such as the extremely popular One Piece podcast, currently on its 473rd episode.
Yo, I never
which
heard of these
discusses
guys.
in extreme
I'm gonna check them
detail
out. I never
each
heard
new
of them.
chapter, with episodes that regularly last over 2 hours, meaning that even entirely separate from the central narrative of One Piece's story, it's still an utterly fascinating landscape to explore. That isn't to say, however, that the story that takes place in One Piece's world isn't vital to its success. It absolutely is. But perhaps just as important as the story Oda tells is the unique way he tells it. Oda is a master in what we're going to refer to as short-term and long-term storytelling. And to really understand why One Piece has endured over the years like it has, we need to understand his work from these two distinct perspectives. Short-term storytelling accounts for the moment-to-moment experience of consuming a piece of narrative, how good a job an author has done in laying out their work that makes it pleasurable to consume. And while I can think of a few manga authors I would consider technically stronger illustrators than Oda, I can't think of any who have the same innate understanding of how to actually make reading a page of manga enjoyable. And even then, when I say there are technically stronger illustrators
That's
than Oda,
fire.
that's not to take away from Oda's work as much as it is to highlight what's special about it.
You know, when I was a kid, you know what I'm saying? Like, I just started watching Naruto from the get-go. But when I was younger, like, the One Piece character designs, it just looked mad goofy. And that's the only reason why I didn't start earlier. Like, I started watching, like, you know, like, during the pandemic. You know what I'm saying? But once you get straight into it, and you start just watching it, you're going to realize that this is a goated anime. This is for sure S tier. To me, this is S tier anime. Slash manga.
Concentrating on intense rendering or meticulous anatomical correctness, Oda's work has a highly organic, expressive quality to it.
He exaggerates
He's
everything.
a master at caricature and stylization, often accentuating the proportions and shapes of his characters to extremes for some of the most hilariously goofy but also strikingly unique designs in the industry. And yet he's also adept at depicting emotion through his drawings, namely by pushing the facial expressions of the different characters as far as they'll possibly go. Joy, malice, desperation, sadness. He knows exactly how to depict the human face in order to give the reader the clearest possible conveyance not only of what a character is feeling, but just how intensely they are feeling it. In short, Oda is adept at conveying information through his images. And this carries right through to every aspect of his manga writing, including the unique way he lays out pages. Go to practically any part of One Piece, and what you'll be met with are pages dense with visual information. While manga is, of course, a visual medium, many series are content to let the dialogue do the lion's share of the storytelling, with the visuals merely serving as an identifier for who is speaking or to highlight character designs. But with Oda, his pages are dense with visual data, with a lot of the world building communicated through images alone.
That's what I'm saying. This guy's amazing.
For example,
Look at that.
Does anyone point out that the beast men use the fruit of the giant trees as their homes? That's information you only get by taking the time to explore the page for yourself. And yeah, it's a small detail.
This reminds me of SpongeBob for some reason. I don't know why.
Pages are packed with these little visual touches. Whether it's a small gag taking place in the corner of a crowd scene, the appearance of a semi-obscure character from a previous chapter, or any number of strange and often hilarious one-off character designs, Oda is an expert at cramming as much visual information into a page as possible. And that means reading and rereading through these chapters is often a surprising and rewarding experience. This visual density does sometimes run the risk of becoming cluttered, especially considering the amount of text that are present at any given time. But what really helps keep this in check is Oda's command over the mechanics of how to guide a reader's eye around a page of manga. The creation of sequential events from a single image is something we talked about a lot in our Genius of Dragon Ball video, but Oda may be the only author I've ever come across with as solid a grasp of this as Toriyama, and in some cases I'd say even exceeds him. Take this 1.5-page spread, for example. We start off on the right with the mink men getting angry at Zoro, then Zoro in return getting angry back, then Luffy responding to Zoro, this dog lady adding to Luffy's response, and then an entirely different conversation taking place on the other side of the room.
This guy's goated, bro.
5 sequential events from a single unbroken panel. And this creates the illusion that as our eye travels from right to left here, time is actively moving with it, which makes it feel like this is an actual event unfolding before us, and not just a group of isolated incidents. And if you're skeptical of this, just look at how less engaging this scene is if we insert some panel breaks. The flow is lost, and so is that sense that we are observing an actual scene unfolding. Oda has used this technique so often and in such minor situations that it nearly seems like something he's doing habitually. But he also pushes it in ways that I've never really seen before. My personal favorite example of this being this depiction of 100 Beast Kaido jumping off Sky Island. We get this panel of a silhouette standing on a massive precipice before lunging forward to the world below. We turn the page or scroll down and we get this beautifully handled piece of visual storytelling.
I'm not gonna lie, the anime makes that scene look so better. You know what I'm saying? Cause like you actually hyped up. You're like, yo, who the hell is this Kaido character? You know what I'm saying? But this still looks dope though. You know, this still looks dope. I ain't gonna lie.
Starting at the top right of the page, we get these 3 panel breaks, which cause our eyes to linger for just a moment, creating the very slight sense of anticipation and distance, before following the trail of Kaido's fall down through the clouds and slamming into the ground in a massive eruption that's even bigger than the island he's landed on. There is any number of more generic ways that Oda could have depicted Kaido's fall, but doing it this way serves 2 distinct functions. For one, it's just an incredibly fun page to read, really conveying with images alone the sense of velocity and impact of Kaido's massive body slamming into the earth. And second, this also serves as Kaido's introduction into the story, and the fact that that impact is so well conveyed and that Kaido survives it so effectively establishes his immense physical strength and stamina, and thus setting him up as the massive threat he's most likely going to become for the Straw Hats later on. And all this from not even...
Kaido's a beast, bro. Kaido's a beast, man.
Through the drawings themselves or through the actual
no pun intended
layout of his manga, there's always a sense that Oda is incredibly engaged with the visual storytelling of his work. And the result is that One Piece is a joy to consume on a page-to-page basis. The simple act of reading One Piece feels good. But it's only when Oda's expertise in short-term storytelling is coupled with his ability to write and sustain a long-running narrative that the true strength of his manga becomes obvious. One Piece is a long-running story, but I think what separates it from so many other stories of this type is that even from its earliest days, it was always designed to be this way. Oda has actually been writing different versions of One Piece since he was a child.
He's not lying, bro. Like One Piece was designed to be this long, because when you look at the amount of foreshadowing that this series has, it's crazy to me, man. Like, I'm gonna start like reacting to videos about like One Piece foreshadowing moments. You know what I'm saying? That's gonna be legendary. If y'all want that, bro, make sure to hit me up.
After being inspired by the cartoon show Vicky the Viking, he would fill his school notebooks with a story he only referred
That's
to
crazy.
as pirate manga. And this pirate manga would eventually evolve into the short romance Dawn, which would eventually evolve into One Piece. So Oda has been thinking of this narrative and world for a very, very long time. Many of even the most recent characters in One Piece have existed in Oda's mind for years. You can go back through his old interviews and see just how far-thinking the story of One Piece actually is. Or even just look back at One Piece's early chapters and see the seeds that Oda has planted. For example, the character Silvers appears in a flashback in chapter 19, only to actually appear in the story and become a prominent character later on in chapter 500.
This dude's goated.
And Oda constantly does this, seeding clues throughout the chapters of One Piece for us to discover and theorize over. Hell, I remember reading a blog post from 2015 that correctly predicted everything about Sanji's backstory that was revealed in the current arc, purely by virtue that his wanted poster said alive as opposed to dead or alive. Oda never feels like he's focused on just the next major arc or plot points, but instead on the long-running narrative of One Piece as a whole. And that's not even taking into account everything we don't know. As many of the threads as Oda has tied up during One Piece's run, there are so many more that are left tantalizingly open. How is it that Blackbeard is able to utilize two Devil Fruit powers at the same time? What was the gigantic Cthulhu-esque
There's an interesting theory about
Frog
Blackbeard.
in the final panels of Thriller Bark? And my personal favorite, why in a nearly 900 chapter story about pirates has not a single character ever worn an eye patch? And of course, the biggest
Look how many characters that is,
what
bro.
exactly is One Piece? The fact that Oda has so continuously delivered on these long-term planted payoffs means that it's very easy to believe that these are questions with answers, meaning that there is always an island on the horizon of One Piece's narrative, always a breadcrumb trail to lead you to the next major story, and discovering where these trails go and how intricately they're worked into the series overall makes reading One Piece extremely satisfying on a long-term basis. And so, One Piece is a beautifully entertaining experience in the short term, while also being highly rewarding on an entirely different level in the long term. And it's these two aspects together that explain why so much of One Piece's fan base has remained so loyal to the series over the years, and also a part of why so many people have become so invested in the characters of the Straw Hat Pirates. But before we dive into what makes Luffy and the crew so great, there's a little misconception I'd like to clear up first, and that is the criticism that One Piece has weak character writing because it lacks what people...
Bro, you know, the video's already 21 minutes, and, you know, I got like 16 more minutes to watch, 15 more minutes. So I'm gonna cut this up. I'm gonna do a part 1 and a part 2, you know what I'm saying? And, because I don't want this video to be super, super long. So, yeah, so 1752, that's going to be for part 2. You know what I'm saying? There's going to be part 1. Hey, and I'm not going to give y'all some type of like goal or something. I'm just going to drop part 2 immediately. You know what I'm saying? Because the way I record videos is pretty weird. You know what I'm saying? I'm not using no laptop, no OBS. And so I'm going to end this video right here. And be on the lookout for part 2. It's coming out immediately, like a few hours from now, alright? So if you enjoyed this, don't forget to like and subscribe. Peace out. Part 2 is coming right now. Alright?